We are still working on the script right now. We've not reached that stage. I don't want to do the film if we can't achieve what we want to achieve with it. So I'm going to make sure that should be a certainty, that we have to match a certain level now. If that's not going to happen, then I'd rather not make the film. It definitely is in the pipelines. Soon.
One day I have to hand over the things. And if it is good that in my presence, I can see the youngsters carrying forward the legacy of Krrish franchise, I think it is better.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
यार मेरे को तो ऐसा धक धक हो रहा है.
There is an iconic scene between Ross and Rachel in Friends, where Rachel tells Ross that just so you know, with us, it's never off the table. This seems to be exactly the relationship that most Hindi film fans have shared with Krrish 4. This mystifying title that seems to creep up in our life every year or so. Just like an ex-girlfriend we admire and cherish as a friend, for all the memories to come rushing back to us when they re-enter our lives, and for eventually them to ghost us, and for the cycle to continue. Krrish 4 has been in the news from what I can remember since 2015. There is literally not an interview or public appearance that Hrithik Roshan does where he is not asked about the possible date, timeline or status of the project. Its regular occurrence in the news or questions from the media has disillusioned fans to such an extent that it has become the case of The Boy Who Cried Wolf, making most of us assume that it will never become a reality. I mean, we have become so numb to the heartbreak that until Hrithik is found in a suit with a confirmed villain on set with the first schedule being wrapped up, no one is going to believe this is happening until we get all of this proof. However, all the news floating around the project since the last few months actually seem like the project is reaching a stage of surpassing the pre-production stage. Finally, presumably Siddharth Anand was roped in to direct the film and due to budget or professional differences, all assumed, opted out of the project. This is something that people were used to hearing. However, I am 100% sure that no one, and I mean no one, anticipated the curveball news that dropped yesterday, that not only is Krrish 4 happening, not only is Yash Raj Films co-producing the film with Rakesh Roshan, but Hrithik Roshan is going to direct the film. A directorial debut for what seems like an absolutely monumental task. This is the kind of faith that people equate to the traditional form of filmmaking style in Hindi cinema, where everything would be on the line. All the faith put on one individual, and dependent on the result, it would literally be a make it or break it situation. We have oftentimes heard about the faith Suraj Barjatia's father had on him while producing Maine Pyar Kiya, or what Yash Johar invested for his son's debut Kuch Kuch Hota Hai. Both situations where their own family production was on the decline and they went with the motto of go home or go broke. And here, when you see a childhood friend like Aditya Chopra join hands with Hrithik Roshan, it seems like the old school faith and manner in which Hindi film producers collaborated with one another. We have done a full thesis on the risk-averse nature of the industry currently, but if you were to just on paper read about this announcement, other than an IP callback, this is a huge risk, leading to excitement, yes, but a whole sense of doubt too. If one were to objectively analyze the quality of the Krrish franchise, then I think everyone would agree that it deteriorated from a quality standpoint. Even though all three films turned out to become blockbusters, the evolution from Koi Mil Gaya to Krrish was a growth in scale but a loss of heart in the process. You had one of the most beautiful sci-fi origin stories in the form of Koi Mil Gaya, a risk in its own right to present a chiseled action hero like Hrithik Roshan as a developmentally disabled boy. I don't think enough credit is given to what Krrish ended up doing in 2006 in terms of presentation of an Indian superhero on a national scale. A film dearly loved across states in India. I mean, if you were to just revisit and ask anyone the impact of Hrithik Roshan as the caped superhero in Telugu states, you would realize that the craze of the man was through the roof. elevated even further in my opinion through a compelling villain played by Nasruddin Shah, an antagonist who challenges you without really having to put up a physical fight but psychologically putting you in a predicament. It is however Krrish 3 that even as a school kid that broke my heart, because scale took over and the film essentially became an amalgamation of borrowed concepts, and we lost out on a compelling tale for the trilogy to feel complete in some way. The only takeaway being that Vivek Oberoi thought that his performance was at the same level as Joker from The Dark Knight. Despite all the criticism that was flung Krrish 3's way, it turned out to become a blockbuster, leading to years of speculation on how the next installment is going to shape up, only to lead to a combination of excitement and doubts that creep up today. What I have learned as a realist from all the observations within the film industry is that most stars, and this is not a generalization, most stars within the Hindi film industry end up ghost directing their films. This is in reference to having creative control over a project and having a director by their side who can essentially streamline the harder tasks of management and execution. I mean, one can have the naive belief that an actor like Shah Rukh Khan was not at all involved in the way Ravan shaped up creatively, but the final product is a combination of SRK and Anubhav Sinha. You look at the case of something as terrible as Kisi Ka Bhai Kisi Ki Jaan, and in the trailer launch event of the film only, you had Salman Khan talking about rejecting the first draft of the script submitted by Farhad Samji, and how the eventual film was entirely different from that first pitch. I mean, there are countless stories and speculations about a project like Tanaji, and whether the entire film was the brainchild of Om Raut or was actually ghost directed by Ajay Devgan for it to eventually shape up the way it did. You have stories regarding the making of Dil Lagi, a movie in which Sunny Deol came in conflict with director Gurinder Chadda on the way the film was shaping up, eventually leading to her walking out of the project and for Sunny to take over. The issue of ghost directing by stars is that there is always a conflict of two visions at play. When there is not a semblance or unity regarding the same, it can often turn into an aimless khichdi versus an unapologetic rendition of a superhero film. There have been countless anecdotes of Hrithik Roshan working as an assistant director and actor with his father and creatively disagreeing on several aspects. And I guess this is where the integration of Aditya Chopra as a producer comes into play, trying to ensure one does not go astray, making this a reality. Many people assume that Hrithik Roshan does not have a director's bug in him, but his history since a child has been that of being on set, noticing his father direct several films, and even donning the hat as an assistant director in several projects. In many interviews, you would also see Hrithik mention his interest to creating from behind the camera versus in front. But it would be naive for anyone to assume that this task is not extremely intimidating and overwhelming as a debutant feature film director. You have a massive budget to deal with. You have a subject matter which will be heavily dependent on technical departments being on point. And what rides on this even more are the expectations of the audience. I mean, we just spoke on the channel about the times where audiences felt scammed in the theatre due to the expectations riding on projects. Brahmastra came in mind for so many people of what was promised and what we saw, and we do not want history repeating itself with this project. I have realized that there are two categories of actors turned directors in Hindi cinema: those who become directors due to pressure and those who don the hat by choice. Sunny Deol as a director for the 3 films he has made, Dil Lagi, Ghayal Once Again and Pal Pal Dil Ke Paas, I think were the cases of compulsion, where the individual had no choice but to direct, a case that is never conducive to creative work. There are some actors turned directors, honestly, who just never really thrived at the job. You have cases such as Hema Malini with Dil Ashna Hai, Pankaj Kapoor with Mausam, Rishi Kapoor with Ab Laut Chale, and Anupam Kher with Om Jai Jagdish. Some people, I guess, just don't have the director's bug. However, if you were to look at the case of the best in the business, artists who made this transition seamlessly and were celebrated for the same, you'll find countless examples. From back in the day, you had Guru Dutt and Raj Kapoor, and in the 21st century, you have had examples like Amir Khan, Konkana Sen, Seema Pava, R. Madhavan, and Kunal Khemu. I hope the case of Hrithik Roshan taking up the role of a director is purely by choice versus pressure. This made me also wish for a few things from this massive project. This is just wishful thinking from a fan. I hope there is a solid writing team on lock for this project, because I think people have really struggled with a creator like Ajay Devgan as a director who is technically brilliant yet has always suffered in his films from a storytelling point of view, always falling short to have a home run with the audience. I hope the writing of this film also does not pander to all sections of the audience, something that Ravan fell prey to, and hopefully this rendition of Krrish is an unapologetic one of the superhero genre. I hope the team is meticulous regarding the casting, origin story and arc of the villain in this tale. If the villain is a home run, then half the job is done in my opinion. I hope the makers do not go in an overkill mode and cast Hrithik himself as the antagonist, and for this to become a megalomaniac Hrithik feast. As Hrithik is slightly older now, 51 years old, I thought there could be nothing better than embracing the age of this superhero, slightly older and withered. Much like Frank Miller's rendition of The Dark Knight Returns 1986, my favorite version of the Batman, a darker and grittier version of the superhero. 55 years old in a dystopian Gotham City where superheroes have either retired or been outlawed. A city inundated with crime, and the aged superhero decides to don the cape once more to restore order. The craziest part of this edition was that Joker, out of sheer boredom, comes out of Arkham Asylum because his favorite nemesis is back into action. This darker, more cynical view of the world of Batman also saw the establishment itself fear his vigilante ways. So a cookie-cutter inspirational Krrish is, I guess, what we will all get. But nothing will make my heart more happy than a darker, more mature version of the same, only if this project materializes. And that was the video, guys. Write down in the comments below what were your honest thoughts regarding the announcement and what are your expectations from the same. Please don't forget to follow me on Instagram, the handle's right in front of you. Follow me at JammyPants4. Also, please support us by smashing the like button and subscribing to our channel for weekly content ahead. Thank you for watching.